I've been going back and reviewing all of Neal Morse's past projects. I started off with the first Flying Colors album, I then reviewed the Spock's Beard album of Snow, and now we find ourselves at the Transatlantic album. These albums have been voted by you guys, so thank you all for participating. And the lead winner from Transatlantic was the third studio release of The Whirlwind, so let's dive into this guy. The Whirlwind by Transatlantic. So Transatlantic is one of the more successful prog supergroups that we've ever encountered. We have Neal Morse coming in from his solo projects as well as Spock's Beard. We have Pete Travis coming in from Marillion. We have Mike Portnoy coming in from Dream Theater. And we also have Roland Stolt coming in from the Flower Kings. So with such big, heavy-hitting names of the newer prog that we saw from the 90s and 2000s, the first couple of releases from these guys were just stellar. It blew pretty much everybody right out of the water. Their first album was released in 2000, and the follow-up the next year of 2001. And actually that next album, that Bridge Across Forever, is, in my mind, one of the pinnacles of progressive rock in that period, in that 2000s, that early 2000s era. And so the band went on a little bit of a hiatus, 8 years to be precise, coming up with The Whirlwind, coming out in 2009. So where was the band going to go from here? Well, within The Whirlwind, it is one complete piece of music. Some people have kind of said that it is 12 separate tracks that amalgamate into one piece. But in my mind, it is strictly one piece of music. It is one track. And this is found within the two live albums that they put out. Both these live discs contain The Whirlwind as one complete song. And this reminds me very much of, say, the 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence from Dream Theater. But looking back, this has been done before, mainly with Jethro Tull, with Passion Play, as well as Thick as a Brick. I'm not going to really look at the second disc of that bonus features. I am mainly going to take a look at that main item. And what we have is a blessing of music on this. They took what they had learned from the first two projects. And within that first two projects, many people had said that the band was too Morse-driven. Within The Whirlwind, though, they've kind of become comfortable with one another. They're familiar with everybody's personalities, and they like to play to that. The one overarching essence within this music is just how much fun the band is having on this album. You know that everybody is having a blast, and you can't help but feel that. And it's just a great breath of fresh air, especially now within the landscape of the 2009. I felt like within the 2009, pretty much from 2007 all the way probably to about 2011, 2012, prog music had been very dark. There had been much more of an emphasis on heavier sounds, on dark tones. Although it can be felt at times in The Whirlwind, the overall arching feeling within The Whirlwind is one of celebration, of joy, of just glee and optimism. With The Whirlwind, there's only really one overarching theme and allegory, and that is the whirlwind being the trials and tribulations of life. This whirlwind has been set down essentially not necessarily to test us, but to make us appreciate life as a whole. The themes and the images that have been used throughout this album, this will pass, the storm will pass you by, it's just a fleeting moment. And so within this, there's an optimistic tint to that, where even in the darkest hours, you know that all of this is temporary and that the storm will eventually pass you by and you'll be better for it. One of the main criticisms about this album is how religious and how almost Christian-centric this is. And if you know Neal Morse and you know the type of music that he provides, this isn't going to be out of the realm of possibilities. Most of his music includes this, and you felt it from time to time on some of the past works within Transatlantic, but it's mainly been just like a little spice. Here it is a little bit more prevalent. I mean, they don't go right out and say it and say, you know, God has sent this whirlwind down, but they allude it to such an extent that it becomes transparent. And that is another drawback to this album, is that the metaphors and the allegories are a little bit paper thin. There's not a whole lot that you can really sink your teeth into within that sense. These are more nitpickings of the album as a whole, because overall the album is such a grand breadth of music. Within the allegories within this, I did actually take quite a bit out of it, especially when this album was dropped. I mean, in 2009, I was living on my own up in the north, and so I needed something to kind of push me through, to remind myself this is temporary, this isn't going to be forever. If you are more religious, you do get a lot more out of it. I mean, especially with some of the lines near the end of this album, like, you know, the one who is in the center is giving us the breath of life. When he's calling you to dance, you have to answer. Those types of metaphors and images, again, are paper thin, but within the grand scheme of things, it does lead its hand quite nicely for the music, because that ending, that last 12 minutes, is just that celebration of what we've been through. I don't know if I've mentioned it yet, but I'm going to mention it now. The whole album is like, what is it, like 80 minutes or 78 minutes? Or it takes up the full runtime of the disc. It's like an hour and a half or an hour and 20 minutes. So the thing is long. You have to approach this album with a little bit of a shift within your expectations of what music is and what songs are. This shift is more of a journey. I mean, I want to go back to that Marillion album of Happiness is the Road. Here, it's not that destination, it's that journey that you're going through within that music, and that's really what's felt on this album. You know the ending isn't going to be for quite a while, so you're just hanging on and enjoying the ride. Most of the themes are found within that first 10 to 12 minutes of music, and most of these will be revisited throughout the album, and that's one thing that I do like about this album. I like how strategic the players are in introducing us to all the themes at the beginning, and then interweaving those throughout the runtime of the song. I think they succeed in tying everything together at the end and trying to revisit all those grand and epic scaling of music. Speaking about the music, I do love a lot of those build-ups and breakdowns. There's one point within the third quarter of the album where the whirlwind just comes and destroys everything essentially, and you hear a lot of those voices that you heard at the beginning of the album. Shield your eyes, it's coming through, the worst disaster we've seen in years. And then the song slowly builds itself back up again to that grand scale of things. Overall, you definitely have to listen to it, and my words don't really do it justice. This is one of those few albums that really fulfilled the promise that they came into this. When you're dealing with a lot of these music, you're going to have a lot of that prestigious, presumptuous, and pretentious. And so when you're dealing with this type of music, that promise either falls flat or doesn't get fulfilled. But this is one of those rare cases that I believe the band comes through and fulfills that promise full-heartedly. This is one that I highly, highly recommend coming in with a different mindset of what music can do. I have to say, I love this album with my whole heart. This guy is just one that begs to be listened to and one that you need to have in your collection. So that's about it for The Whirlwind. What did you guys think of this beast of an album? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Let me know by commenting below. So, we have one more album left within the Neal Morse preparation for his next album, Similitude of a Dream. That is going to be coming out very soon because Similitude of a Dream is going to be released in a couple of weeks, so I'm kind of on a time crunch here. So you guys have voted. It was close. There were two albums that came neck and neck, but one album came above all else, and that was Sola Scriptura. So I'm going to dive into that one. So keep your ears and eyes open for that. And until next time, notes out.